All right, so now in this video, we're going to practice using the sum and difference rules and taking the derivatives of the basic trig functions, which are the sine and cosine functions. So the sum and difference rules basically says that if you're adding two functions like f of x plus g of x, or if you're subtracting two functions f of x minus g of x, then the derivative of their sums or differences is simply just taking the derivatives of each one individually and then adding them or subtracting them. So the derivative of the quantity of f of x plus g of x is equal to f prime of x plus g prime of x, or the derivative of the quantity of f of x minus g of x is equal to f prime of x minus g prime of x. These are pretty intuitive, so there's really not much need for a proof. And what we also will practice with is taking the derivatives of the sine and cosine functions, which are actually, they're pretty much themselves. So the derivative of the sine function with respect to x is the cosine function, and the derivative of the cosine function is the negative sine function. I'm not going to go through proof here, but in another video I will. So if you want to see why this is, please go ahead and check that one out. But let's go ahead and let's do some practice problems, because again, I always think that's the best way to really master this stuff. So let's look at the derivatives of each of these functions here. So we're going to take these derivatives. So if we want to find, we're going to have f prime of x. We simply just take the derivatives of each of these. So the derivative of x cubed, using the power rule that we covered in the previous video, we're going to have the power, so 3 times x, and 3 minus 1, or 2, so 3x to the second. And all we do is minus the derivative of 4x. So the derivative of 4x. So that's just going to be, remember the derivative of 4x is just 4 times the derivative of x. The derivative of x is just x to the 0, because remember, this is the same as x to the 1. So this will be 4x to the 0. And the derivative of 5 is a constant, so this will just be plus 0. So simplifying this, working this out, we'll get 3x squared minus 4 times 1, because x to 0 is just 1. And that 0 doesn't matter. So all we really have is 3x squared minus 4. Pencil exploded. All right, B, we got that g of x is the negative of x to the fourth over 2 plus 3x cubed minus 2x. So g prime of x, we're going to start off by first just taking the derivative of this. And remember, we can just rewrite this as negative 1/2 times x to the fourth, because this is the same as negative 1/2 times x to the fourth. So we can leave the negative 1/2 out and just multiply it by the derivative of x to the fourth, which will just be 4x to the third using the power rule, plus 3 times the derivative of x cubed. So the derivative of x cubed is just going to be 3x to the second minus 2 times the derivative of x, or just that'll just be x to the 0, or just 1. Kind of just did that one in here. So simplifying this, we'll get that g prime of x will be negative 4 over 2, or negative 2x cubed, plus 9x squared minus 2 times 1, because remember x to the 0 is just 1, or just minus 2, like that. And so this will be our answer. All right, C, we have that y is 3x squared minus x plus 1 over x. Now, the trick here is to break this up into 3 fractions. This is the same as 3x squared over x minus x over x plus 1 over x. We haven't done any calculus or differentiating yet. We're just using, rational functions from, hopefully you mastered in pre-calculus. And then we can simplify this. I can actually, let me just write equals, because this is going to be equal to 3x squared over x. That just did an x cancel, so this just becomes 3x. Minus x over x becomes minus 1, plus 1 over x, or plus x to the negative 1. Same thing. So now we take the derivative of this expression. So then y prime will be 3 times the derivative of x, which will just be x to the 0, which we've been doing, or just 1, minus the derivative of 1, which is just 0, so just minus 0, plus, using the power rule, plus negative 1 times x to the negative 1 minus 2. Or sorry, negative 1 minus 1. So x to the negative 2. And simplifying, we have y prime is just 3. Because remember, this is just 0, or this is just 1. I can just write 3 times 1 if you want. This falls away. This just becomes minus x to the negative 2. And let's make this a positive exponent and write this as 3 minus 1 over x squared. Right, and for d here, we have that y is equal to 2 times the sine of x. So all we simply have to do is multiply 2 by the derivative of the sine of x. So y prime will just be 2 times the derivative of the sine of x, and it's defined as the cosine of x. So this is just 2 times the cosine of x, or just 2 cosine of x. That's simple. That's all there is to it. All right, let's go through a couple more. And again, if I were you, I would pause the video and maybe try these last couple ones on your own first. And then when you think you got them, unpause the video and then check to see if you got the correct solutions. All right, so here we got that y is equal to the sine of x over 2. So this is the same as 1/2 times the sine of x. So let me put this all in parentheses, 1/2. Whoa, this doesn't look very good. So if we want to find y prime, we're just going to take 1/2 and multiply it by the derivative of the sine of x, which is just the cosine of x. This is just 1/2 times the cosine of x, or just 1/2 cosine of x. For f, we have x plus the cosine of x as our function. So y prime, we're going to take the derivative of x using the power rule. Remember, this is the same as x to the 1. So using the power rule will be 1 times x to the 0, which is just going to be 1, plus the derivative of the cosine of x. The derivative of the cosine of x is the negative sine of x. So this just becomes 1, remember x to 0 is 1 minus the sine of x. And for g, we have that y is equal to the cosine of x minus pi over 3 times the sine of x. Now, what usually gets students is pi over 3. But remember, this is the same as y is equal to the cosine of x minus pi over 3 times the sine of x. Whoa. The pi over 3 is just a coefficient. It's a constant coefficient. So all you have to do for this one is take pi over 3 and multiply it by the derivative of the sine of x. So then y prime is simply equal to the derivative of the cosine of x, which is the negative sine of x, minus pi over 3 times the derivative of the sine of x, which is just times the cosine of x. And that's really it. There's really not much else you can do. So there you go. Make sure you keep practicing this stuff because it takes a lot of practice.